It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorn. Next up, another Emmy-nominated star on FX, the great Louie Anderson. Of course, Louie Anderson doesn't need much of an introduction. He's been a stand-up comic for more than 30 years. You've probably seen his stand-up on TV at some point. He had his own cartoon show in the 90s, Life with Louie. He hosted the Family Feud for quite a while. Lately, though, his career has taken sort of a different turn. Last year, he took a part in the FX series Baskets. The show stars Zach Galiafianakis as Chip Baskets, a kind of mean, sad, aspiring rodeo clown in Bakersfield, California. Louie plays his mom, Christine Baskets. Last year, Louie won an Emmy for the role, and he's up for the same award again this year. And if you've ever seen the show, you know why. He is magical. Anderson is in drag, I guess, but it is not a drag performance. There's no camp or wink. He takes the part seriously. He plays Christine funny when she's funny, sad when she's sad. Let's take a listen to a scene from the show's second season. Christine just traveled to jail in Camarillo, California, in order to bail out her son Chip, who's played by Galifianakis. And in this scene, they are meeting in the visitor's room, and Christine's patience is wearing thin.
Oh, I can't believe it. When Dale told me...
Dale told you?
I thought, oh my God, my son? I don't even see my Chippy in there. I just see a jailbird.
Mom, I don't want you worrying about me anymore, okay? It's not worth it for you.
What did you do to get in here?
Mom, it was trespassing and mischief, I think.
Mischief?
Mischief, yeah, general mischief.
Mischief?
Mischief!
Were you chasing a mouse around? Chip, is it because I sent your French wife away?
No, that's not it.
You know, Chip, I provide a house for you. I give you food. I give you money. I bought you tennis shoes. I paid for your clown college.
I don't know what to tell you, Mom. I'm a millennial.
What does that even mean?
Louie Anderson, welcome to Bullseye. It's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
The part of that is, I mean, I'm a millennial. What does that even mean is the hardest joke there, but the one that I really love is I bought you tennis shoes.
Yeah. You know, that was a little bit of, we were ad-libbing that scene back and forth, you know, we needed the info in it, but Zach and I were going back and forth, and when I was naming things that I provided for him, I couldn't think of the right word, so I just went with what would be authentic maybe to the character and came with tennis shoes. Because, you know, that's something, that's like, I got you into college, I got you a car. What about those socks? And I just thought, there's always a real... like mothers especially have this affinity for things they get their kids. Like, I got you those beautiful socks that time. My mom used to whisper it.
I had a friend in elementary school named Evan. He was still a friend of mine. And Evan, from literally from preschool into high school, his mom would get him socks for Christmas. And she would go to the Gap and when the Gap was big on selling like primary colored, basics. She would get him all these different color socks, and he would get that for Christmas. And she never understood, she's a wonderful woman, never understood why he wasn't happy to get socks for Christmas.
Probably because she had no socks growing up and always wanted socks. I find that to be our motivation in life almost with everything. Whatever we missed in our childhood, we really try to make up for in our adulthood.
What did you feel like you missed in your childhood?
Well, I have tons of underwear at home. So I remember we were poor, we were on welfare. And so the welfare, and we had 11 children. My dad worked, but we got some help. So, with different things like rent and just small things though. And because, they were reluctant to give anyone help that had any kind of income. It's a funny thing that they do in the welfare department. But so every year they would give you these vouchers because they didn't trust you with cash. That's how I looked at it. And we would go down to Robert Hall, which was a store in the Midwest that was a men's store. And I would get 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts, 2 pair of underwear, 2 T-shirts, 2 pair of socks or 3, and a pair of shoes, a pair of boots, and a jacket. And that was it. You know, that kind of had to last me. One day, 1 week, or one day I would wear those pants, and then, you know. And I remember the guy, when I came in, my mom said, I've got some vouchers for him. And he got on the remember when they'd have a microphone and he goes, Saul, I got a husky coming back for you. And it was, I was in shock for a second, but
they're like, could you please stand on the husky platform? I
even knew the humor of that then. You know, I just wanted to go back and bite him. You know, it was a big dog. And I just had that image of me pulling a sled as a husky, and it just made me laugh inside. And then it was, you know, it was humiliating to have that announced on the store, even though nobody probably cared a bit about it. Those are the kind of things. So I think because I couldn't have things, I'm always buying clothes. I go, I think I might be out of shirts. And I've got like 1,100 shirts, you know, that kind of thing. But I cleaned out my storage. I had 6 big boxes of underwear. So
it's a lot of underwear, but it is freedom from want.
Yeah, I think it has to. It is freedom from want. But I think I must think I'm always out of underwear because it's a humiliating thing as a kid to only have a couple pair of underwear. You know, to be without is not the worst thing in the world, but, you know, you don't want to be humiliated by it. I think kids are always worried about being humiliated by what they don't have in a situation. Growing up, we would line up in the project lines, which I always thought, this is cruel, you know. And all the kids had the same jacket from the store where the vouchers were. It was. I got a lot out of that. It created who I am. So how can I not be thankful for it?
Well, I mean, I think that's a nice thing to say.
I mean, I think that's the thing you must come to the conclusion of. Because otherwise I could be at McDonald's going, do you want a large fry or do you want a medium fry? That could really have happened. Who knows? I mean, not that I wouldn't be unhappy. I probably would like being at McDonald's.
I read somewhere that your conviction was that you were going to like be something and make something of yourself, but that your first idea of what that would be was that maybe you could become president.
Yes, I was convinced.
Well, how old are we talking about?
I think when I realized how much power the president had, because I was powerless in my family with 11 kids and an alcoholic father and a crazy mother, she was the salvation of the whole group. So, you know, I kind of thought, well, that would make my mom proud if I became president. And then, you know, I would be a very good politician. I could get elected, but I would be a terrible administrator. Because I would just like, nah, I wouldn't want to do any of that work. They would bring it in, and I go, what? I have to meet with who? I couldn't do it. And so I just tried comedy on a dare. In 1978, a friend dared me. We were at a bar, and these comics were out there, and I go, these guys aren't funny. He goes, you think you're so funny, why don't you try it? I go, I will. And the next week I signed up. For a one-time thing, I was never going to be a comedian.
It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorn. I'm here with Louie Anderson. He plays Christine on the FX show Baskets. Did you know, like, what comedy was? I mean, we all know what comedy is, but I mean, did you know, like, what an act was or, like, what the parts of stand-up were when you went
I thought I knew everything. So do you know that complex? You know, because I think I was just an ego-driven kid with, you know, probably a maniacal want. And so my dad was a musician, very successful musician, very early in his life. But by the time I came along, he was done with all that. And he was a mean alcoholic who was very troubled.
He was 50 when you were born.
He was 50 when I was born.
And he had been a trumpeter.
Trumpeter with Hoagie Carmichael.
But lost his lip.
Lost his lip. That's what he always said. And he had a little mouthpiece he always still practiced on. He played a ukulele and a harmonica when my mom was mad at him to try to butter up to her. So, you know, I would stay up with him and watch The Tonight Show because I was an insomniac as a kid. You know, most comics I think are crazy, and so we're up all night or late at night, and even as kids. And so I would watch the comedians, and I loved Jack Benny, and I loved Jonathan Winters, and I loved Bob Hope, and I loved Johnny Carson and Jackie Vernon. I can still remember all the comedians I connected with immediately. I connected with all the comedians who had something different than the other comedians had.
What about your mother? You have talked about your mother and your family in your act for decades and decades, and now this part that you play on Baskets is a sort of an homage to her. What was she? What was she like in your family?
She was just like a big chicken who kept her chicks safe. That's how I really look at her.
You had 10 brothers and sisters.
10 brothers and sisters.
And your mother also lost 5 children in childbirth.
Right. That's right.
That's extraordinary.
It's really extraordinary. And I had no idea, you know, but look at my mom. The first baby died, 2 sets of twins died, and I wonder how many other things had happened. That must have been traumatic. And yet, there was a sunshine about her face all the time, you know, that we depended on. She had a very big soul purpose to end up surviving whatever situation she was in with a smile on her face and lipstick on. She wanted to look, you know, she wanted to look good. She was a, you know, wonderfully sweet person, but very vain and self-centered in her own way, because she grew up a very spoiled child and had a rich father and mother who were very disappointed that my father, you know, got her pregnant, and that was it.
Did you and your brothers and sisters have ways of getting time and attention from your parents?
You know, here's the thing. When you grow up in a family where there's a 20-year span, there's 3 different families. There's the oldest kids, the middle kids, and the youngest kids. And sometimes the middle kids are part of the youngest kids, and the middle kids are also part of the oldest kids. So there's a couple ties there. But mostly you grow up in 3 different families. So I was the kind of kid who had his head on his hand and would sit and listen to the adults. That's the kind of kid I was. I always think comics come from a big stew that sits on the stove for a long time. And when it, you know, the right ingredients were in there for the 10th child or whatever it was. Because all my brothers and sisters are talented and funny and sweet and crazy and all like me. But I had the right combination and opportunity or something, or drive. I think it could be the drive.
Did you ever get to hang out with your mom?
Yeah, because, you know, my dad died in 79. She died in 90. I took care of my mom.
So as an adult, but what about as a kid?
You know, I have very few memories as a childhood. I blocked out, I think, a lot of stuff.
That's surprising to hear for somebody who's been doing material about his family for 35 years.
But in the sense of, I had relationships with all those people, so I'm recreating the relationships.
Yeah.
But specifics, like when you say that, I see pictures of myself in those social situations, but I don't have that clear recollection that some people do.
I want to play a clip from your stand-up from. This is from a special from 1989 called "Mom, Louie's Looking at Me Again," and you're talking about growing up in Minnesota with your family, especially your folks, and you do in this clip an impression of your mom's social moves, her chattiness.
Whenever my dad would start working on something, my mom would come around and do that babbling. She'd hover around him and do that. Well, we all went down to Woolworth's, and I was able to find some of that junk jewelry I've been looking for. And then I got that hat for Janet's daughter. And then we went over to the Red Owl, and I got a 3-pound roast, no fat on it all. You wouldn't believe it. Then I found these radishes, as red as a fire engine. You wouldn't believe it. About this big. You know how you like them? You dunk them in the salt, and you eat them, you make that crunchy thing. I just love that. And then I was driving the car, and it was going up a hill, and it took. I think you're using that cheap. Shut up! No wonder I'm going nuts. And your mom wouldn't shut up. She's really hurt, in fact. She'd kind of trail off. You know. Shut up.
You're from Minnesota, and there's this thing called Minnesota Nice. It is the watchwords of the entire state of Minnesota. And it means a kind of reserved politeness and niceness that is sincere, but also can be passive-aggressive or conflict avoidant to the point of it causing problems, that kind of thing. And I wonder, like your Midwesternness and your family's Midwesternness, especially your mom, is like so baked into your comedy. And I wonder, like, if you ever think about what you lost from the niceness in your family or in your growing up, in addition to what you gained from it.
Well, I always said that they're passive aggressive. They'll bandage you up, but they were the ones who cut you in the first place. And then they'll rip the bandage off at a certain point and then want to redress it. So I think it's insidious, it's that whole thing. Minnesota's such an unusual place. I've been everywhere, and there's a real sense of we will open our arms to you, we will accept you, and then they will not show you the rule book.
Yes!
They don't give you the rule book. And I don't know if they don't do it because they want to eventually get rid of you, or they just want to see if you're worthy of the rules, or if you can learn on your own or something.
It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorn. My guest is Louie Anderson. He's a legendary stand-up comedian and television host. He's also the star of FX's Baskets. I want to play another clip from Baskets, and my guest, Louie Anderson, who plays Christine, Zach Galiafianakis, the title character's mother. And in season 2 of the show, which is the last show, by the way, Louie nominated for another Emmy Award for his performance. She is thinking about being romantic for the first time in a long time. And she's talking with Martha, who is her friend and Zach's characters, about new flame.
Did you get lamb chop? I don't want her peeing there. That dog pees everywhere. I've seen it.
I don't think she has to pee. I think she just misses her Meemaw, probably.
Oh, okay.
How are you doing?
I'm good and keep myself busy. We've got, people coming over to pay their respects, and that's always a nice thing.
Yeah.
I remember that guy?
Yeah?
I went to see him.
Oh, that's great, Mrs.
Denver.
Baskets.
And you were right. There was a sexual vibe.
Did I say that?
You did, and I had a terrific time, Martha. That city is like, so high, so technically, I guess, I'm part of the Mile High Club.
Oh, that's great.
I love that scene. You know what? That scene was a really important scene, all of that stuff there. Because Christine, hadn't probably hugged anyone for, 25 years or more? That's how I figured it. I don't think anybody paid any attention to her, and she was taking care of the kids, and maybe because she got so fat, she didn't think she was desirable. And then here's this guy who has a like-minded situation with his child, And yet he's so kind and loving to her. She's perplexed. Is this, when he hugged Christine at the end of the Reagan Library thing, I worked a long time on the expression that I would have inside for that hug. And I got it. 25 years of not being hugged. I thought of my mom, and because from 1979 till 90, I don't think my mom got hugged again from the opposite sex. Well, if she
like
did.
Romantically.
If she did, she wasn't telling us. I hope she did. I hope she did, because she was a sweet person, but she made people instinctively feel better. She knew how to make people feel. I learned that from her. She goes, you should be nice to everybody, Louie. And I go, why? She goes, because you don't know what kind of day they had. So what? What about what kind of day I had? When you're a dumb teenager.
Are you comfortable looking at yourself on screen?
Sometimes.
You actually
I got really fat the first year. I was really fat. In the second year, I tried to lose some weight because Jonathan thought it would be better physically for me. He was just real straightforward with me about it. And then the third year now, I did take control of and have become I'm eating very healthy, and I'm a really healthy person right now. The most healthy person I've ever been. I don't smoke. I drink. I would drink a glass of champagne if you had really good champagne, but that's about my limit there. But I don't, I'm serious about living as long as possible.
Why is that?
Oh, this is hard because I've lost my brother a couple of years ago. My baby brother Tommy. And he was 60, and I couldn't save him. So I thought, maybe I'll save myself.
He was bipolar, right?
Yeah, he was everything, but he had really worked a lot of that out. I mean, occasionally he would throw a plate of food against the wall, but who doesn't? I mean, he was a lovely person. He was my baby brother.
That's a really...
It's a hard one for me still, every day. Because we grew up like this. We were very close. Very close. We had endured the same stuff all through. I've lost 7 siblings. It's very hard. Very, very hard. I learned all my stuff and all that loss. I learned a lot of stuff. And I cherish every moment with who's left in my family.
You have an incredible... To be a great comedian, and especially the kind of great comedian who is able to perform for any kind of audience. The kind of comedian who can open for the Pointer Sisters and do the Tonight Show and open for Lynyrd Skynyrd or whatever and kill in all of those places. You have to have an extraordinary sense of what the audience will go for, basically, like what will work for them. And I wonder if you ever feel constrained by that. There's
all right. You mean like? Well, go ahead. Give me because I'm not sure your question.
I'm sure there are versions of you that would be great that don't work for everybody, right?
Yeah. No.
On stage.
Listen. I agree with you, and I no longer am that comedian. Mm-hmm. I'm not out to please everybody anymore. I wish if I were to do it all over again, I'd be less popular and much more artistic.
I think you're very artistic in your work, so I hope you wouldn't.
No, but
I hope
I mean,
you don't feel otherwise. But
I think I'd be much more controversial, maybe that.
Interesting.
Because I would be I would have a much harsher truth to all the characters, you know. Like, you know, I softened everything. I made my dad a human being in my cartoon. I took who my dad was and I softened him up, but you still knew he was dangerous at any moment in the cartoon, even then. And that's what I was going for. And that's who I am on stage. I'm there, I'm very friendly, but I'm a very dangerous person.
well, Louie, given how dangerous you are, I think I better get out of here.
But you know what I mean by that dangerous
I
thing.
do. Don't worry.
No, I'm not worried. You know, that's the greatest thing. At a certain point in your life, when you get older, why worry? I always tell people, you know, worry will not extend your life 1 second. Stay in the present if you can. It's the hardest thing to do. Or send me presents. I love that.
Well, Louie, I'm so grateful for you to you for coming here and talking to me. Thank you so much for being on Bullseye.
Thank you, Jesse.
Louie Anderson. Check him out in Baskets on FX. You can see why he gets all these awards. And while you're at it, you can go check out some of Louie's stand-up comedy. He is a genuine legend.